come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning. Welcome once again to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I'm Reverend Stephen, your minister. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather virtually once again, a spiritual community working to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. We extend a special welcome to our visitors. Thank you for worshiping with us this morning. Once again, welcome. Now, as we prepare for worship, we take a moment to breathe, to invite the Spirit of love to be present among us, and to open our minds and hearts to honoring the earth as we celebrate the 51st anniversary of Earth Day today, and we reflect on how we are each called to care for our beautiful, fragile planet home.
The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The sun is rising, and so are we. The sun is rising, and so are we. The sun is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be.
At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows, is the street that a creature named the Lorax knows. It is here, deep in the grickle grass, some people say, where you'll discover you can still see today, where the Lorax once stood just as long as it could, before someone lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax and why was it there? And why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows. The old Onceler still lives here, and he's the only one who knows. You won't see the Onceler. Don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of myth-muffered moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay.
Good morning. We gather this morning to reflect on our precious earth, specifically to pay attention to the good in us, in others, and in the greater good of our world. This morning, we stop and pay attention to all that is asked of us in the name of justice, compassion, understanding, commitment, and service. But as is our way, we will also have a little fun. We're telling the story of the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. In the story, we are reminded to pay attention to that spirit within us that challenges us to look deeper, especially to the spirit of the earth and how we are in relation to it as part of this interdependent web of all life. And what does that ask of us? Come, let us worship together.
We join Unitarian Universalists across the country in lighting a chalice, a sign of life's beauty and wonder, a symbol of peace and hope, an invitation to continue our ongoing search for the light of truth within us and among us, and a reminder that we are all interconnected in the great web of existence of which we are each a beloved part. As I light our shared chalice, I invite you to light your home chalice. Now, would you join me in our words of covenant? Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now I'll tell you, he says with his teeth-sounding ray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away.
It all started way back. Such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean. And the song of the swami swans rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees, I saw brown barbaloots, frisking about in their barbaloot suits as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the rippleless pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew just what I'd do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill and great speedy speed, I took that soft tuft and I knitted Need. The instant I'd finished, I heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy. And he spoke with the voice that was sharpish and bossy.
Mister!
He said with a sawdusty sneeze.
I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs.
He was very upset as he shouted and puffed.
What's that thing you've made with my truffula tuft?
Look, Lorax, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I am doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a thneed. A thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt. It's a sock. It's a glove. It's a hat. But it has other uses. Yes, far beyond that. You can use it for a carpet, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers for bicycle seats. The Lorax said.
Sir, you are crazy with greed. There is no fool on earth who would buy that fool's thneed.
But the very next minute, I proved he was wrong. For just that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed I had knitted was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. You poor silly guy. You never can tell what some people will buy.
I repeat, I speak for the trees.
I'm busy, I told him. Hush up, if you please. I rushed across the room, and in no time at all built a radio phone. I put in a quick call. I called to my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch. And in no time at all, in the factory I built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thneeds just as busy as bees to the sound of the chopping of truffula trees. Then, oh baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now, chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees with one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before, and that Lorax, he didn't show up anymore.
What will happen next? Before we find out, let's take some time to be together and to care for one another. So I'd like to invite us now into a time of stillness, which we turn inward to connect with the love that is the very heart of life itself, to reflect on the mysteries of life, and to remember once again, we are connected to each other and all the truffula trees and all of life as part of the great interconnected web. Let's enter silence. There have been struggles, losses, and concerns we've experienced this week, difficult things we have on our hearts. I invite you now to use the chat box to share with us any concerns, sorrows, losses you may be feeling. We'll share our joys a little bit later. I'll read out loud what you share. Becky Haynes says, my brother-in-law is in the hospital with heart problems. May he know healing and peace, Becky. Kathy Kearns shares that she had surgery last week to repair a broken arm. So far, recovery is going okay. We send wishes for your healing, Kathy. Alyssa Lamb shares that Chelsea Cannon gave bone marrow to her brother Jesse Cannon this week to save his life. Elaine Bowen says, for Jeanette, who is healing from severe burns, and for her sister, who loves her dearly, may Jeanette heal. I'd like to invite us now into the spirit of prayer, of reflection. Spirit that is life and love itself, mystery in which we find strength and common purpose. As we turn our minds and hearts toward one another, we are holding in this circle of care and concern all who need our love and support, those we've named, those who are in our hearts and thoughts, for all who are ill in body or in spirit, those who struggle with addiction, may they find healing and wholeness. For those who are lonely, those who are grieving, the victims of any kind of abuse, victims of gun violence, all transgender people who face violence, may they find safety, comfort, and peace. As each of us faces life's challenges, losses, and struggles, may we find strength and hope in knowing that we are not alone, that we are held by love itself, a love that embraces us and sustains us. May we remember that we are connected in mystery and miracle to one another and to all of life. May we work for the safety and well-being of all life, and may the knowledge of our interconnectedness guide us in compassion, kindness, and love. And now, once again, using the chat box, please share your joys. Kat Holt shares that today is my mother's 83rd birthday. Well, happy birthday to her. Joe and Beth Camerly share that Connor turned 15 last week, and Beth's birthday is this week. We send our birthday greetings, wishes for happy days to you. Cheryl Spohr says, after my cataract surgery, I won't need bifocals. I will see perfectly up close. That will be such a joy. We celebrate with you, Kat. Becky Haynes says, I am thankful for progress with my son's recovery. We continue to hold all of you in our hearts in this time. Kevin Breeden says, joy for a happy and speedy recovery from top surgery, and gratitude for all the overwhelming support from my family, friends, and church community. We're glad you're a part of our community, Kevin, and we send wishes for healing. And now, with gratitude for these and every blessing we receive in life, thankful for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of each other on life's journey, and for the hope and the possibilities of our life together, we say, Amen.
Underneath the surface, hidden down below, there's a story waiting, waiting to be told. And deep inside the story, wonder to behold, passion, joy, and sorrow, gifts as pure as gold.
Gifts as pure as gold.
In every rock and every stone, 1,000 voices find a home. In every seed of every form waits a secret to be born. So listen for the whisper rolling thunder all around you. If you do, it'll turn into a memory to hold. Listen for the rocks, trees, and the bumblebees around you. Everywhere you go, that there's a story to unfold. Underneath the surface,
Underneath the surface,
hidden down below,
hidden down below,
there's a story waiting.
there's a story waiting.
Listen,
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 listen, and you'll
You'll remember the Lorax, who had walked away quite sore. Well, the very next week, he knocked on my new office door. He snapped,
I am the Lorax, who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and lived happily eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round. And my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They loved living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys, I cried as I sent them away.
I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go. But business is business, and business must grow. Regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. I meant no harm. I truly did not. But I had to go bigger. So bigger I got. I biggered my factory. I biggered my roads. I biggered my wagons. I biggered my loads. Of the needs I shipped out, I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more needs, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again, he came back. I was fixing some pipes when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes.
I am the Lorax.
He coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled. He snarled. He sniffed.
Wutzler,
He cried with a crofulous croak.
Wutzler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swami swans, why they can't sing a note. No one can sing with smog in his throat. So please, pardon my cough. They cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. I know what you're asking. Where will they go? I would like to tell you, but I don't rightly know. They may have to fly for a month for a year to escape from the smog that you've smogged up around here. What's more,
Snapped the Lorax. His dander was up.
let me say a few words about Gluppity Glup. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making gluppity glup and schluppity schlup. What do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. You're glumping the pond where the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, or their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary. I hear things are just as bad up in Lake Erie.
Oh no, this is terrible. What can we do?
And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax. Now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap yap and say, bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir. And I'm telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you stick in the mud, you hear what I'm thinking, and you really will boo-hoo. I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering, and your righteous ideals I will be a-triggering. Turning more truffulent trees into thneeds, which everyone needs.
And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffula tree, the last of them all.
No more trees? No more thneeds? No more work to be done. So, in time, my uncles, my aunts, everyone, all waved goodbye. They jumped into my cars and drove away under the smoke-smuggered stars. Now, all that was left 'neath the bad-smelling sky was my big, empty factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, just gave me a very sad, sad backward glance as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants. And I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all the Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with the one word, unless. Whatever that meant, well, I couldn't guess.
Before we continue our story, Colleen?
I wonder what he meant when he said unless. None of us, I imagine, are unfamiliar with the idea that the earth is becoming more and more polluted. From ozone depletion and global warming to the elimination of species by destroying their habitats, to the difficulty in breathing, to traffic and noise, pollution has become a reality because many have chosen to care about the convenience of our days and the speed of our lives. more than the obligation to sustain the earth, which has sustained us for so long. And so I wonder, what are some of the ways that you or even we as a congregation can help sustain our earth? Can you use the chat box for me? Give me some answers and your thoughts about how we can work together to sustain our earth. I know there are a lot of people in this congregation who are part of the Kent Environmental Council. Stop using gasoline, says the Hovansik family. Alyssa is saying recycling. Eric Van Bars, reusable containers, stop single-use plastics. The Curris family, limit single-use plastics. Claudia says, develop sustainable energy sources. Trish says, stop or cut back on eating meat. Oh, you guys have, oh, no, they're flying fast and free now. Raven says, support the indigenous people in the Amazon fighting to save the Amazon forest. Katie Grigg says, hang your clothes instead of using a dryer. Brad, ride your bike. You know, Brad, you're riding your bike all around town, helping to save the earth. Becky Haynes, help others that don't have the means to recycle. Caring for your community, absolutely. Lee Brooker, go car free. The Romes, Raylyn says, have regular trash pickups and protests. Kevin, O'Mara Lee says, take what you need and leave the rest, knowing well to whom it belongs. Packerman's, or Iona says, carpool. Michelle, reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose, refuse. Cheryl, bring back trains and trolleys, public transport, not cars. Marianne Casper, limit textile waste. Tracy Luna, buy local, avoid plastics, plant trees. Mary and Randy say, support politicians that are willing to fight for the environment. Kevin, teach children to love the earth. Preach. Curris family, stop throwing trash in the oceans and rivers. Alyssa, thrift, thrift, thrift. That is our family way at the Taylor house. We thrift. Trish, avoid palm oils unless sustainably grown. Randy and Heidi share, reevaluate our views and beliefs about the earth and our relationship to it. The Packerman family shares, less time in stores, more time outdoors. That's a good motto. Brad Bolton, donate old t-shirts to the socially responsible sweatshop. Leah Gallagher writes, buy from local farmers. These are great friends. Katie Grigg, stop showering? We can certainly limit our showers, right, Katie? Or as my kids like to do, if we go to the river. That's a bath, right? Becky Haynes, tie-dye old clothes. Yes, repurpose old clothes. Alyssa, food, not lawns. These are great ideas, friends. Thank you for sharing. The word unless may be a reminder for us, a reminder that unless we care about our earth, and it seems with these answers in our chat box today that you certainly do, but unless we care for our earth, it may not always be here to care about us. So we do these things in solidarity and with love for Mother Earth.
From you I receive, you I give, together we share, and it is from this we live. In spite of being apart physically, we are strong and thriving as a community and able to be together virtually for worship, for community, for shared ministry, because of the gifts of money, time, and care each of you so generously give. Thank you. To help others in our community thrive, we also give to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. April's special offering is for Margie's Closet, Northeast Ohio's first ever clothing store for transgender people. The store is located in Lakewood, Ohio, and provides a supportive, judgment-free setting to try on clothing. So now, in the spirit of gratitude for the gift to one another in this community and the abundance that makes generosity possible, we give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond.
We've got the whole world in our hands. 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 We've got the trees and the forests in our hands. We've got the trees and the forests in our hands. We've got the trees and the forests in our hands. We've got the whole world 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 in our hands. We've got the rivers and the seas in our hands. We've got the rivers and the oceans in our hands. We've got the rivers and the oceans in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the garbage and the trash in our hands. We've got the garbage and the trash in our hands. We've got the garbage and the trash in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. Here we go. We got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
There's more story to tell. We're going to extinguish our chalice now before we find out the ending. So would you join me in those words, please? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again. And now for the ending.
Well, that was long, long ago. But each day since that day, I've sat here and worried away. Through the years, while my buildings have fallen apart, I've worried about it with all of my heart. But now,
says the onceler,
now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. Sad to say, but it's not. So, are you ready to catch? Here we go. Catch!
called the onceler as he lets something fall.
It's a truffulus seed, the very last one of them all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds. And truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water, and feed it fresh air. And grow a forest, protected from the axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back.
The end. But just the end of this particular story. Our story, of course, must continue as it's still being written, and the earth still needs our help. As the Lorax reminds us, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot. You know what? The Lorax reminds me of someone who also spoke for the trees and the water and the air. Someone who cared a whole awful lot. Someone very special to our particular community. Gordon Vars was a beloved member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. He made it his mission to protect our Kent bog. As funds for nature programs were being cut and developers threatened to build a mall in the area years ago that would have ruined the water table that feeds the bog, Gordon created a group called Friends of the Bog so that someone would be there to speak up for the earth. He said, I want to know how many people care about this place because we need their help. Nature Preserve manager Charlotte McCurdy said she was so impressed with Vars's passion for the bog and his efforts to safeguard it, working with developers and zoning people to make sure the bog was protected with a buffer around a proposed housing development. Gordon, knowing more voices were needed, drew in others to help, including members and friends of this congregation, some that I see here today. He worked with high school teachers to get students out there to do bog cleanup days, and whenever there was an event in Kent, he'd be there to promote the Friends of the Bog and gather emails for his updates. He'd even be out there in the pouring rain with an umbrella, and his work paid off. The bog today is home to pitcher plants, tawny cotton grass, tamaracks, along with raccoons and mice and snakes and spotted turtles. After Gordon passed, the boardwalk running through the bog was named in memory of him. Thank you, Gordon, and all of the Friends of the Bog. You know, I strive to be more like you and the Lorax. Unitarian Universalists have a long history of working for justice for the earth, from water protection to fighting climate change, planting trees, growing food, protecting endangered species, and cleaning up rivers, just to name a few things. But the work that needs to be done can sometimes feel big and even impossible. But the good news is that, like Gordon, we don't have to do it alone. We can each play a part in caring for our world. We can challenge ourselves and others to make sustainable changes in our day-to-day lives that will make an impact. We can teach our young ones through our example about why we work for all of this and why we work for all of us. We can gather our voices together so that we are heard by politicians and corporations who create the laws and policies that can protect our air, water, and earth. Excuse me. We can tell stories of those that have paved the way and continue the work that they began. We can commit to learning and growing because as we know better, we do better. This Earth Day, may we listen to the wisdom that the onceler eventually came to know. You are in charge of the last of the truffula seeds, and the truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water, and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack, then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. May it be so.
Before Colleen offers the benediction, I want to give a quick shout out to Colleen for creating this service, working with us to do this wonderful Earth Day service, and Amanda, who made an awesome onceler. Thank you both. Now, Colleen, will you share words of benediction with us?
Certainly. In the words of Edward Everett Hale, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. As we go out into this world this week, my friends, may we all do the somethings that we can do to protect our earth and all of her precious interdependent life. Go in peace. Amen.